You've always known there was something different about you. In a small town where most kids fall into routine, school, sports, church on Sundays, you found yourself drawn to the edges, the cracks where the rules seemed flimsy. While others memorized equations or drilled plays on a football field, you were busy watching people. You noticed how teachers left their grade books unattended, how the sheriff's patrol car always paused longer at the diner than on his route, how your parents argued about bills only after they thought you'd gone to bed. Every small detail became part of your private catalog of knowledge. It wasn't that you wanted to cause trouble, at least not at first. It was the thrill of knowing you could. There's power in spotting the weakness in a system, in realizing the adults who run the world aren't infallible. They forget things. They overlook things. They underestimate you. And what could be more intoxicating to a restless teenager than the feeling of being two steps ahead of the very people who claim to know better? You start small. A candy bar slipped into your jacket when the corner store clerk turns her head. A prank call that rattles the high school principal late at night. The little victories are never about what you gain, but about what you prove to yourself, that you can bend the rules and walk away untouched. Each success feeds the hunger for something bolder, riskier, more impossible. But small towns have long memories. Word spreads quickly, even when no one can pin the blame. Teachers exchange uneasy glances when they notice the answers to a quiz circulating before the test. Neighbors whisper when car keys go missing, only to reappear the next day as if nothing happened. The sheriff shrugs when he hears these stories. Kids will be kids, he says. Still, his eyes narrow a little more each time he passes you on the street. You feel his suspicion like a shadow, always there even when you pretend to ignore it. And that only makes you want to push further. After all, if he already thinks you're guilty, why not give him a reason? The turning point comes one sweltering afternoon when the town is heavy with boredom and dust. You and a couple of friends are loitering by the gas station, sipping sodas, when someone jokes about the patrol car parked around the corner. Bet you wouldn't dare, they say. A spark lights inside you. You've studied that car for months, memorized the sheriff's routines, the way he tosses his keys carelessly on the counter while he orders pie at the diner. The dare becomes a decision before you even realize you've moved. One moment you're laughing with your friends, the next you're sliding into the driver's seat of that patrol car, heart pounding so hard it rattles your rib cage. The leather is hot against your skin, the air thick with the smell of old coffee and gun oil. For a second, you hesitate, but hesitation has never been your style. You turn the key. The engine roars to life. Your friends scatter, their laughter turning to shouts of disbelief. And just like that, you're driving through the streets of your town in the very vehicle meant to uphold the law. Windows down, wind in your hair, siren switch flicked on just for the thrill of it. People gape from sidewalks, jaws dropping as you pass. You've never felt more alive, more untouchable. Of course, the sheriff is on you within minutes. His rage burns hotter than the summer sun, his voice booming as he orders you to stop. But you know these roads better than anyone. You've ridden your bike down every alley, every dirt track, every shortcut. You weave through town like it's a maze built just for you, leaving the law sputtering in your dust. When it finally ends, it's not because they've caught you. It's because you choose to stop. You abandon the car just outside the old sawmill, slip through the woods, and emerge home an hour later, face flushed with the lie you've already rehearsed. The sheriff pounds on your door not long after, demanding answers. But there's no proof. No witness is brave enough to swear it was you. Just whispers. Just suspicion. That night, lying in bed, you stare at the ceiling with a grin you can't suppress. You've done the impossible. You've humiliated the man who thought he held all the power. And in that moment, you believe the world has no rules strong enough to hold you. But beneath that victory, another truth stirs. Once you've tasted that kind of freedom, there's no going back. You've crossed a line, and deep down, you know the law won't forgive or forget so easily. The story of the stolen patrol car spreads like wildfire. Within days, it isn't just your classmates whispering in the hallways. It's old men at the barber shop, cashiers at the grocery store, and parents huddled on front porches at dusk. No one says your name outright, but you can feel it hanging in the air every time you walk by. The weight of suspicion doesn't crush you, it fuels you. You've gotten away with the unthinkable, and now the question gnaws at your restless mind. What next? You start sketching plans in your notebook, scribbles disguised as math problems or song lyrics. To anyone else, it's nonsense. Lines, arrows, notes in the margins. But to you, it's the blueprint of possibility. You don't just want another prank. You want a masterpiece, something that will prove once and for all that you're smarter than the people sworn to control you. Your eyes settle on the bank at the center of town, not because you crave money, but because it's untouchable. It's the heart of the community, guarded by alarms, cameras, and men with stiff uniforms. To walk out of there untouched would be the ultimate victory. Not a robbery in the traditional sense. You have no gun, no mask, no appetite for violence. What you have is cleverness and a reckless belief that cleverness is enough. You start watching, days spent loitering across the street with a soda in hand, pretending not to notice the way the tellers rotate shifts, the manager steps out for smoke breaks, the armored truck arrives with monotonous precision every Thursday. You learn their habits like the back of your hand. You even befriend a junior teller, charming her with offhand jokes and feigned interest in her classes. Each detail becomes another puzzle piece in your growing scheme. The plan forms slowly, like a photograph in a darkroom. You'll slip into the system rather than break it. A forged slip of paper here, a falsified signature there, just enough to move funds from one place to another without raising suspicion, at least not immediately. It won't make you rich, not really, but that's not the point. The point is to prove that even the fortress of adulthood, the bank itself, can be cracked by a teenager with nothing but nerve. The night before you act, you lie awake in your bed, adrenaline buzzing beneath your skin like electricity. Your parents assume you're restless about school, about grades, about the future. If only they knew the truth, that you're about to gamble everything on a single audacious play. The next afternoon, you stroll into the bank as casually as if you're depositing babysitting money. No one looks twice at you. You're just another kid with a backpack and a cocky smile. The junior teller waves. The manager barely glances your way. You slide the forged paperwork across the counter with steady hands, every detail practiced, every number rehearsed. The moment stretches, silent but deafening, until she nods and stamps it. Just like that, the impossible becomes possible. You leave the bank with your heart pounding, a folded receipt tucked into your pocket like a crown jewel. The money has moved, quietly, invisibly, exactly as you intended. To the outside world, nothing has changed, but to you, everything has. You've just played the game on their level and won. For a while, the town remains oblivious. The bank doesn't notice the discrepancy right away. You go about your days as if nothing happened, carrying the secret like a talisman. Friends tease you about skipping homework, parents scold you about curfews, teachers roll their eyes at your daydreaming. If only they knew you'd outwitted the very system they trust to keep order. But secrets have a way of souring. Within weeks, murmurs ripple through the bank staff. Numbers don't add up. Accounts don't match. Whispers of an internal error begin to circle, and soon suspicion spreads beyond the vaults and ledgers. The sheriff, already weary of your antics, sharpens his gaze. He's seen enough of your sly grin and restless eyes to know trouble when it stares him down. You should feel fear, but what you feel is exhilaration. Every sideways glance from the sheriff, every hushed conversation behind closed doors only feeds your pride. They're chasing shadows while you walk free. You tell yourself you've proven something vital, that youth is not weakness, that the world's rules are more fragile than anyone admits. And yet, deep down, another voice whispers, "You've lit a fuse, and sooner or later, it will burn back to you." The fuse burns faster when you expect. One day, you're sitting in the cafeteria, laughing with friends as if nothing in the world could touch you, and the next, the sheriff's patrol car is circling the school parking lot with deliberate slowness. His eyes sweep over the crowd like a hawk scanning a field, and though he says nothing, you can feel his suspicion land squarely on you. The investigation becomes the talk of the town. Rumors about missing funds swirl, and suddenly everyone remembers the stunt with the stolen patrol car. People start drawing lines between that reckless joyride and the bank's clerical error. In their minds, it makes perfect sense. The kid who once humiliated the sheriff is now taunting the entire system. Instead of shrinking away, you rise to the challenge. You sharpen your instincts, watching every movement of the men hunting you. You begin to see the investigation not as a threat, but as a game of cat and mouse. The law moves, you counter. They question, you deflect. They search, you distract. Every day is a new round, and the stakes feel higher than ever. The sheriff visits your school under the pretense of giving a talk about civic responsibility. You sit in the back row, arms folded, eyes locked on him as he warns about certain individuals who believe they're smarter than the law. His words are aimed like arrows, and though no one else dares glance at you, you feel the heat of their unspoken suspicions. You smirk anyway. Let them look. Let them wonder. But as the chase stretches on, the thrill begins to warp. Each night, you listen for the crunch of tires on gravel outside your window, half expecting the sheriff to come knocking. You study your own footsteps, making sure you leave no trail, no evidence, nothing for them to hold. The paranoia sharpens your mind, but it also gnaws at you. What started as triumph now feels like balancing on the edge of a blade. Then comes the first close call. One Friday evening, you're walking home when the sheriff's cruiser pulls up beside you. The window rolls down, and his voice drips with authority as he calls your name. He doesn't accuse you outright. He's too smart for that. Instead, he asks where you were last Thursday afternoon. He asks if you've ever been inside the bank. He asks if you know anything about missing funds. His eyes bore into yours, searching for the slightest crack. You answer calmly, each lie wrapped in half-truths, each shrug rehearsed. He studies you for a long moment, then drives away, leaving you standing in the glow of the streetlights, heart hammering like a drum. That night, you lie awake replaying the encounter, your mind a whirl of fear and pride. You beat him again, but for how long? The town becomes a pressure cooker. Friends drift away, afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Teachers treat you with suspicion, their patience worn thin. Even your parents start to look at you differently, concern mixed with disbelief, as though they're finally seeing the cracks you've hidden all along. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. They don't understand. No one does. Still, the walls are closing in. The bank tightens its records. The sheriff broadens his net, and the whispers grow louder. You begin to notice details you once overlooked. A car parked too long at the corner. A stranger asking odd questions at the diner. The faint click of a camera when you pass by. Every move you make feels watched, every step measured. And yet, despite the mounting danger, you can't stop. The game has consumed you. Outsmarting the law has become your identity, the very thing that defines you. To quit now would mean admitting weakness, surrendering the one power you've claimed in a world designed to keep you small. So you push on, even as the noose tightens, even as the thrill turns to dread. In the quiet moments, when you're alone with your thoughts, you sense the inevitable. You know no one wins a game like this forever. But you also know something else. If you're going to fall, you'll make sure it happens on your terms, not theirs. You start to feel it, the first unmistakable tug of reality, sharp and cold, pulling at the edges of your carefully constructed world. One small oversight, something you considered inconsequential, begins to unravel the perfection of your schemes. It's almost poetic, the very attention to detail that allowed you to slip past the law now sets the stage for your undoing. It happens during a routine run to the diner. You've memorized every face, every movement, every nuance of how people react when they sense something amiss. You take a shortcut through an alley you've used countless times, confident that no one is watching. And yet, there it is, the flash of a camera, almost invisible, capturing the precise moment your jacket brushes against the curb. Nothing incriminating in itself, just a silhouette, a trace, but it's enough. Back at home, you dismiss it at first. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe the police are still chasing shadows. But then the calls start. Subtle, probing, questions about where you were on certain afternoons, inquiries thinly disguised as casual conversation. You feel their eyes even when they're not there. Every corner of the town seems charged with suspicion, every friendly wave carrying an undertone of accusation. The bank's discrepancies are finally traced to your actions. Someone notices the pattern in the ledger, the irregular movement of funds. The evidence is circumstantial at first, a thread, but threads have a way of becoming ropes when pulled. The sheriff's eyes gleam with satisfaction, the kind of patience born from knowing your arrogance will meet its match. Your friends, once your partners in harmless mischief, begin to drift away. They whisper about the risks, about what could happen if you're caught. Your parents' concern becomes more tangible, their conversations behind closed doors no longer muffled, but loud, urgent. And you realize the game has grown beyond a test of wits. It has turned into a reckoning. You try one last maneuver, a desperate attempt to regain control. You think you can outthink the investigators, cover your tracks, erase the hints of evidence before they solidify into proof. Nights stretch into early mornings as you pore over every interaction, every transaction, every detail of your movements. Your mind, once sharp and exhilarated by the challenge, is now taut with fear and exhaustion. The moment comes when it all collapses. A single piece of evidence, a tiny signature forged in haste, an overlooked camera angle cements your fate. The sheriff doesn't even need to confront you in anger. The law has its mechanisms. A knock at the door, the weight of badges and authority filling the hallway. You feel the inevitability in your bones before you even open your eyes. Handcuffs. The shuffle to the patrol car, the cold glare of the officer in the back seat. Every heartbeat pounds like a drum of both pride and regret. You've been caught, not by brute force, but by the meticulous perfection of the system you tried to outsmart. And as you sit in that back seat, the town shrinking behind you in the rearview mirror, a strange clarity settles over you. You realize that victory had been fleeting, that every thrill carried a hidden cost. For all your cleverness, there was a price, and now you are the one paying it in full. Even as the cells and paperwork await you, there's a part of you that doesn't regret the audacity. You tested limits, you bent rules, and for a moment, you were free in a way most adults never are. That freedom, however brief, comes with scars that will linger far longer than the exhilaration ever did. The world you return to after that first night in custody is smaller, colder, and infinitely heavier. Freedom, once taken for granted, now feels like a distant memory, a cruel tease that dances just beyond reach. The walls of the juvenile detention center are nothing like the alleys and streets where you once ruled. Here, rules are absolute, enforced with a rigidity that allows no room for clever shortcuts or clever escapes. Every step, every glance, every word is scrutinized, cataloged, and judged. At first, you struggle to reconcile your sense of self with the reality of your confinement. You were the master of games, the orchestrator of chaos who outwitted your town. Now, suddenly, you are just another face in a uniform, another body counted in a bed. But gradually, something shifts. You begin to observe the system from the inside, noting the hierarchies, the routines, the weaknesses, and the subtle ways people assert power. Even here, knowledge and strategy are forms of currency, though they demand a different kind of patience than you once wielded. The other teens, some frightened, some hardened, some indifferent, test your resolve. They probe for weakness, push boundaries, and gauge how far they can go without punishment. And you, ever vigilant, respond not with rashness, but with calculation. You learn to pick your battles, to understand when silence is more powerful than defiance, when observation can be more effective than action. The thrill of outsmarting the law is muted, replaced with a quieter, more internal game, surviving, enduring, learning. Visits from your parents are both a comfort and a reminder of the life you disrupted. Their eyes carry a mixture of disappointment and lingering hope, a recognition that the boy they raised is not gone, but altered. You see it in the lines of their faces, the tremor in their hands, the careful choice of words. You begin to realize that consequences extend beyond your own body. They ripple outward, touching everyone who dared to care for you, reshaping relationships that once felt unbreakable. Time, as it stretches in these walls, becomes a teacher. You reflect on every choice, every daring exploit that led to this point. The thrill of outsmarting the law is no longer a source of pride. It is a cautionary tale etched into memory with clarity sharper than any storybook. You begin to understand that freedom is not a prize to seize in clever bursts, but a responsibility, fragile and hard-won, that can vanish in a single misstep. By the time your release comes, you are not the same person who once laughed in the face of authority. You are older, not just in years, but in perspective. You carry the lessons of misjudged confidence, of fleeting victories, and of the price exacted for audacity. And though you may never forget the rush of being untouchable, you now know that the true measure of intelligence is not merely evading consequences, but understanding when to act, when to resist, and when to accept that some games are too dangerous to play. Stepping into the sunlight outside the detention center, you breathe deeply, tasting the freedom that once seemed endless and inevitable. It is bittersweet, heavy with the knowledge of the cost, but it is yours. You carry the past not as a trophy, but as a guide, a reminder that every choice has weight and every daring act leaves a mark, not just on the world, but on the soul. In the quiet aftermath, you walk through your town differently. The streets you once raced feel slower, measured, and more dangerous than you ever realized. You see the sheriff's office not as a challenge to your cleverness, but as a reminder of boundaries, lines drawn not to restrict, but to maintain order, fragile though it may be. The playgrounds, the diners, the alleys where you felt invincible now carry the weight of memory, each one a testament to choices made and consequences faced. You understand now that the thrill of outsmarting authority comes with invisible chains. Every clever move leaves traces, every misstep a potential trap. Freedom is not a state of mind alone. It is earned, nurtured, and fiercely protected. And the hardest part is reconciling the exhilaration of your past with the reality of its cost. The people you care about, the friendships tested, the trust broken, all of it forms a ledger that cannot be erased, no matter how clever you are. Yet there is hope, quiet and stubborn. The lessons of your misadventures do not vanish. They become tools, guiding you toward wiser decisions. The cleverness that once endangered you can now serve you in safer, more constructive ways. Strategy, observation, and timing, once weapons for evasion, can be used to build rather than destroy. You feel the first stirrings of maturity, the understanding that intelligence without restraint can be as dangerous to oneself as to others. Looking back, you see the paradox clearly. The very audacity that nearly destroyed you also shaped you. It taught resilience, sharpened your instincts, and revealed the depth of your own courage. The narrative of your youth, once a series of reckless gambits, becomes a story of learning, a cautionary tale woven with moments of daring that, while costly, revealed truths about who you are and what you value. As you step into the next chapter of life, the past lingers like a shadow, sometimes heavy, sometimes faint, but never forgotten. You carry it with you, a silent reminder that freedom is never free, and cleverness alone cannot substitute for wisdom. Every choice matters, and the world is always watching. And yet, amid the lessons and the regrets, there remains a spark, the understanding that even in mistakes, even in consequences, there is growth, and with growth comes the possibility of redemption, a future shaped not just by daring, but by discernment.